Nothing beats starting a Monday morning with a little club music. Toya, how are you?
I am awesome and amazing. And yourself?
I am good. Well, before we jump in, I want to remind everybody Wednesday from 1 to 3, we're doing the big 2 hour state of the industry deep dive into all the numbers. I think there's only like maybe 20 tickets left. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to therealestatestats.com and click on events. And the information's there. Toya's my co-host this month, and we've got a bunch of fun stuff planned. So Toya, what's the feeling out there in the marketplace?
Oh my goodness, it is all about going back to basics. I think that we are seeing a uptick with our buyer presence. Although inventory is still a little low, it's still loosening up a little bit. So we are seeing more inventory hit the market. However, it really is navigating our buyers through the market and really helping our sellers find out other options.
Yeah. I think we overcomplicate it. And a lot of times, like if you use the analogy of like a New Year's resolution, we get all excited at the beginning of the year. We got our plan, we're working our plan, and then life gets busy and we tend to bail on our plan. Well, the simple plan I'm telling people is I call it the 5 plan, which is just quickly send 5 direct messages a day, 5 text messages a day, have 5 conversations a day, send 5 handwritten note cards a day, and post on social media daily. And DMs, text, phone call, handwritten note cards, post on social media. And honestly, Toya, this is just a simple activity plan, but I think it's a reminder this morning that, the excitement of the new year started and we started to all get busy, but don't bail on your activity plan because that's where your success is going to come from this year. And what I find most people struggle with is, what do I say? And as simple as it is, Toya, I'll just tell you, it's, hey, Toya, happy new year. Glad your year started off. Are you going to have any real estate needs in 2024 I could help you with? And if you sent that to everybody in your database, you're going to find those buyers or sellers early before they stumble upon somebody else because you waited too long to reach out. And I would just encourage everybody to be knee deep in activities. Rick Hale, how are you?
Fabulous. Thank you.
All right.
You can tell
Well,
he's fabulous. He's the only one with a shirt on that represents warm weather.
there you go. Well, Hubert sent me this over the weekend, and I wanted to start with this before we jumped into the numbers. This was a social media or a LinkedIn post from Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at National Association of Realtors. And his first sentence is my favorite. I'm glad 2023 is over. and then his second sentence, I'm really appreciative that he didn't put an exclamation point on it. It says the lowest sales since 1995. Thank you for that. However, I find this next paragraph interesting, and it's a pretty good perspective. It says in any given year, 150 realtors exit the industry, 150,000, and 150,000 join. Some years it's a little more, some years a little less. However, last year, 163 dropped out and 136 got in. So that basically says 13,000 agents more than normal left the industry and 14,000 less than normal got into the industry, which is a net difference of about 27,000. Yet, where's my perspective in that? Competition is actually in my favor now. Yeah. There should be less people fighting for the business. And if I'm the one that's out there doing activities and I'm committed to doing activities, I got a higher probability of finding great success this year. And I want that to be the message. What do you think about that when you hear that, Toya?
I agree. I think we're all seeing it. We're seeing a lot of people that entered into the industry within the last 10 years, and we're seeing, particularly in the last five, that people are having to either go back out and get jobs and rethink real estate. But you're absolutely correct. I just think they don't know what to do. And it's really the people that are going to be doing the activities that are going to win. You mentioned one thing, the five text messages, five handwritten notes. That reminds me of Ignite, just going back to sheer basics. And, that is the activity, and the productivity will show up in the results.
Absolutely. Hubert, I'd love you to pop in. You sent this to me. Uh, what did you think about when you read it?
Well, first of all, like, I've been a huge fan of Dr. Young for many years. It's between him and Gary Keller, they do offer some solid insights on the industry. And the main difference with Dr. Young is that he does have a PhD in economics, so the man knows his stuff. And so in terms of what this means for me, this is not propaganda. These are facts, and I like dealing with facts. Of course, a lot of people want to say the sky is falling, everything's bad, this, that, and the other. This helps to put it into perspective of what's actually happening in the marketplace. And so, to your point, I think this opens up new opportunity for, those of us who are seeking out the business and also, doing the activities. And then further down in his post, he talks about the positive signs of 2024. And in this market, I mean, we have to lean on the positivity and manifestations in order to get through this, challenging, different time, if you will.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think mindset's everything. And when we're talking about activities, that's really where mindset kicks in, right? It's kind of like going to the gym, Rick. Like nobody loves it unless if you do you're unique. But your mindset to get it done, it just means you just go do it. And Toya, you made mention of Ignite, and I cringe when you say that because I think everybody that's experienced goes, "Oh, that's for new agents." But the truth is that's for successful agents. Is I'm committed to doing a daily habit that causes activities to happen, that causes sales to happen. And that's the message you really need to hear. But you're right. It starts in Ignite, and then hopefully our success takes off and we never lose the habit.
He freeze.
No, I'm waiting on you to say something.
I never heard Rick. You just went.
Oh,
So the only thing I would add is that there are 3 million agents according from 2022 that are, I guess licensed realtors, and the net negative 27,000. Although a legitimately that is a factual big number, there's still ratio of agents potentially trying to steal your business or just win your business. Let's not make it a crime, but it would be a crime if they're in your database and someone else scores the opportunity because you're not in touch at a meaningful enough level. And so the story is always has been and always will be about getting your unfair share and doing things others either can't or won't, or doing them better and more often. And so as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, man, what's my local experience look like? Who's competing in my arena, in my area? Go back and see who closed business in what you consider your database or your territory or geographic, or pick a whatever your pool is, and do some math and figure out who's still around and full time, and analyze the competition locally and make sure that you're going to win the battle locally, because that's the only one that ultimately matters once you get past the consumer confidence side of national news.
there you go. Well, let's go with some good news here for a second. So
By the way, that
after
was good
Hubert,
news.
that is good news. That
You
is
can
good
win.
news.
You just
So
need to know who you're fighting.
yeah, I went and looked up his latest forecast after Hubert sent me this, and he's predicting 4.71 million existing home sales in 2024. That's 13.5% more than what they expected 2023 to finish with. And that's a big jump. So if 2023 was the bottom, we're bouncing off the bottom and doing a good recovery in 2024 with less agents. So you should be able to capitalize on this opportunity. And the shift book talks about that, right? Like when the curve goes down and comes up, if you're in the game after the curve comes up, you'll get your unfair share if you're in the game. And I think that's the moment in time that we're at. He says annual median home prices are expected to remain largely unchanged at the national level for the second straight year, modestly improving affordability from rising income. And then they've got some top housing markets. I didn't see Atlanta in the top 10 list yet. I think what number is interesting is the median sales price in the US is 389,500. Does anybody know what we finished with? Our median
Close,
sales
right?
price at the
374, wasn't it?
end of last year was 317,000.
So we're more affordable.
We are.
It's a
Nope.
good story to tell.
That's the annual one right there. Scroll down.
Oh yeah, annually. At the end of the year, where are you at? Here.
Here we go.
We finished at 375.
Really
So we're
close.
still more affordable. And that is one of the big factors when you're talking to consumers why Atlanta real estate market is so strong, is because we actually average less than the median home price in the US in a major metropolitan area that thrives with jobs. And you're going to see that in another article. I'll spell that out more on Wednesday, but I think it's important to understand that. He does not predict foreclosures to be much more than 1%. I was interested in that because I don't have data behind it, but intuition tells me the average consumer's debt is much higher. And I think more people are struggling financially now than they were in the previous 2 years. So we'll see where that lands. He talks about GDP should grow next year, avoiding a recession. Now, I wasn't in fear of a recession, but it's certainly confirming to hear a top economist say we're not going into a recession. They expect job additions to slow, and compared to 2.7 in 2023 and 4.8 million jobs in 2022. Here's the truth behind employment. We're basically at full unemployment, or we're at full employment. So that's a factor in why our economy is still thriving in spite of. And I feel really good about that. He also predicts the 30-year fixed mortgage to average 6.3 this year. So what's the rate now? As of this morning, it's 6.92. So he predicts the average will end up at 6.3. Now, the mortgage rates, if you were tracking this with us, that 30-year fixed, I think it was, there's the lowest point. At one point early this year, it was at 6.65. And now it's gone back up to 6.92, but we need it to stay below 7 for just a consumer mentality thing. But the predictions are it should just creep on down. But I think the optimism, we thought it was going to skyrocket down at the beginning of the year, and it's not. It's going to creep down. And I think that is important to know as a real estate agent. Why?
Well, I think, when we're looking at, interest rates, we've got to be able to talk about that is a part of affordability, especially when we're looking at payments. The other thing that I would add to that is I do think that agents need to familiarize themselves with different programs, because there are, even banks have programs now that are a little bit less than what's trending for some of the home buyers, particularly first-time home buyers. So I would just say, I think that this is a good on average, but look at some of the things that are happening locally right here in our market. And banking, we're seeing that there are very big competitive rates right now that are a little bit less than this for
Yeah.
various programs.
I saw an advertisement yesterday during the football game that said you could buy a new Ford for 1.9% APR if you use Ford credit.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, so there's a private institution offering an incentive to buy a new car that's different than the marketplace. And what I'm hearing you say, Toya, is there's going to be some government programs, some incentive programs that are just not going to trend with the market, but it's our job as real estate professionals to know about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
supply and demand dictates the level of inducements that a retailer or reseller has to promote to sell more product. So it tells me that the industry, the auto industry's obviously slowed down a bit, and there's inventory, and they're trying to get creative to, attract buyers.
But can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Here's what I think it really means. You're paying more for the car and the sales price, and they're buying the rate down with the difference to get you attracted to a payment versus a price. Could we not do that in the real estate industry?
That's all it is. That is it. What are you
Affordability.
comfortable with
Instead
paying?
instead of getting a $5,000 rebate when you buy the car, they are applying it to the life of the loan.
Mhm.
Real estate, you can do the same thing. So get creative, guys. All right. The other thing he had in here, he foresees 1.48 million housing starts in 2024. A million of those are single family, 440,000 in multifamily. So new construction is still going to be a big part of 2024. Let's jump into the numbers real quick. So on here, well, we talked about prices. Let me hit the local numbers. All right. So in Fulton County, we got 661 active listings. It's down from last week, a little bit down from the first pop in 2024. But this number compared to where we finished December is much higher. Active under contract, 112. What you should see in that number is a ramp up to spring market. So that means 112 people said yes to today's interest rate, that said yes to buying a house. That means 112 sellers said, yes, I'll sell and pay that rate on my next property. 243 went pending. We haven't seen that number since early November. So this, once again, spring market, 243 people saying yes to today's interest rates. 124 closed. I think it was an off week with the holiday on Monday. So I expected the number to be a little odd this week, but still 124 after 214 and 205 the 2 weeks prior. I feel good about making the statement we're ramping up to spring market. Would y'all add any context there?
I also just kind of look at the other opportunities that we have. I love saying, who's saying yes to the market, but also, where are the opportunities for us to go gain some of these things that fail. So I always look at the withdrawals and expires, because those numbers, although they are down, that's still viable because, again, people are not working those. So that's an opportunity for us to be able to work that market.
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah, momentum is everything. And so positive momentum this early and to declare spring. I mean, I was in Atlanta last week and it was 15 degrees. I'd be hard pressed to say that it felt like spring, but the numbers look optimistic, and momentum is everything, and the trajectories, and it's inspiring.
Boy, was that Rick saying he feels our pain as he's sitting there?
I was trying to.
All right. DeKalb County's got 376 active inventory. Look at those numbers compared to where we started the year. It's popping. 72 active under contract. You got to go back all the way to October to see that many people in a 7-day period say yes to buying. 137 pending, 128 the week before. We're ramping up, and 87 closings, down from the week before. Once again, it was a short week. But yes, Toya, same comment. Look at the withdrawals and expireds. That's 52 people that had a dream of selling their house that got crushed, and needs somebody good to come in and talk to them. And I'll hit Cobb County real quick.
And while you're changing to that, I would still say there's a great opportunity for us to even go back to the first of the year and hit those expireds as well, because those were some big numbers coming up after the end of the year.
All right. 312 active inventory in Cobb, up slightly from the week before. 82 active under contract, 90 the week before. 166 pending, 140 the week before. I got to go back to October to see those numbers in Cobb County. 78 closings, off from the week before. Once again, same commentary, and then expired withdrawals. I mean, if you just went to the beginning of the year, that's 229 properties that you could be calling right now in Cobb County that are expired listings if they haven't relisted in a TCPA friendly way, as they hashtag it.
Absolutely.
Well, every
All
listing
right.
should generate a piece of buyer business, so it's a 2-for-1 if you do your part and market it well and track and follow up leads.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw up a controversial article. So this on the Atlanta Business Chronicle, they dated it January 10th, and it said Atlanta home prices are very high risk of decline. And it says there's a very high risk home prices in the metropolitan area will decline in 2024, according to a new report. And it has a greater than 70% chance of declining home prices from November through November 2024. With a 50 to 75% confidence.
And
I
we're 40% certain of our confidence.
listen, when you're looking at stats, you don't want to be emotional, right? So you want to look at it from a logical standpoint. I don't see this happening. And this is the one report, this CoreLogic price report. And I actually heard Brady Sandahl talk about a stale donut analogy last week at the luxury event I went to. And he said, if I list 10 houses, 3 will sell in the first 30 days. A second set of 3 will sell in the first 75 to 90 days. And then 4 will sell after 90 days. And he said, if you think about the donut analogy, the donut that was just baked and iced, the icing is still like dripping on the donut, is like the most prized donut you could buy at a donut shop, right? That would be the listing that sells in the first 30 days. And then at what point after that donut has sat on the shelf too long that they actually have to pull it off the shelf and put it in a reduced file over here and sell it at a discount? And in real estate, it's about 90 days. So if you're not selling that listing in the first 90 days, you are going to sell it at a price reduction. So what is in that analogy? I go back to what does our inventory look like? And Luke does such a great job of keeping these updated. If I go here, and I go down to inventory, oh, next one. At the end of the year, December was 22 days. So that's telling me on average, we're selling hot donuts with icing that is still dripping.
Always have,
So
always will.
if this isn't creeping up, we're not taking the donuts off the shelf and selling them in the reduced section over here that you could buy in bulk. We're at 23 days at the end of the year in December for the entire FMLS market. So my argument to this article would be that until inventory creeps north of 4 months, I don't think this article can hold true. And y'all argue with me on this because I want to fact check my thinking, but I just don't believe it.
Hey, Brett, it's Ken. I agree. I seen that article and I opened it for 3 seconds and just moved on. So I don't see it on the streets. I don't see it on the market. I mean, I don't know where they get their logic from, but
Yeah. Go ahead, Mika.
I have a different opinion because it depends on what price point you are selling in and what areas of town you're in, because there are some sellers who are very proud of their homes and are putting the houses on the market overpriced, regardless of what we tell them. So my seller who just asked me to reduce the price, yes, it's only $5,000, but the $5,000 can make a difference. So there's going to be some realizations that these sellers are going to have when it comes to the prices that they're putting the houses on the market, and reduction is going to be relative. So my $5,000 reduction, as small as it is on 400,000, is still speaking to this article. And there are quite a few people who will take slight reductions, but it's just going to speak to the propaganda that the media puts out there. So
And how long's that listing been on the market?
45 days. And
Okay.
it's a one bedroom loft off of the Beltline on Memorial. So it's a specialty type of product. So this is just a generalized statement, but things like that will start to see some movement. And there are like Southeast and Southwest Atlanta. Some of these investors are trying to recognize as much as they can when it comes to their investments. And they're starting to have to see, okay, I got to come down 15,000 because nobody's going to pay for the granite that I overpaid for. So those are the things that are going to be recognized in articles like this, I think.
Yeah. And then we land on this, and you probably heard this already because it's a few weeks old, but it's saying that Zillow is ranking Atlanta as a top housing market this year, which if we're a top housing market, that the byproduct of that is price appreciation. And what they're saying is it's expected to rank as the sixth most competitive U.S. housing market this year. And they're talking about price points. So if you look at the top 10, the average price point for the U.S. is $347. We're $373. Now, these four are lower price points. Nobody wants to live in Buffalo because they just lost the football game, but none of this really is eye-opening outside of the fact that the prediction is that there's a lot of pent-up buyer demand. We're an affordable price point. I believe the market will be competitive. And outside of unique properties, I just don't see the prices going that far backwards.
The only thing that I would add to what Mika is saying to possibly give some validation to that, it's going to be very important for real estate professionals to price it right. That's to me what it speaks to. We are seeing, where these clients are dictating what they feel their property is worth, and they're not listening to the market. So I urge realtors to, you know, really be firm. If you are gonna have to take it over price, and you know it is, put some, you know, clauses in there that makes you have a price reduction, you know, every week. That's what needs to happen. And so there, you don't have to go back to the table. We automatically know every single week we're reducing it by X number of dollars, but really pricing it right. I think that's what that speaks to in my mind.
And even if you did a $5,000 reduction,
Mhm.
what's the comparison of that price to what it was it worth a year ago? Because you still may be ahead of what it was worth a year ago, which is price appreciation.
And the other thing to think about, I always tell people, switch hats, switch your buyer's hat. And, you know, what population of new buyers are you going to actually open it up to with only a 5,000? Is still the same population of buyers. So we just have to really, you know, it's going to be a hard task to really educate the consumer in terms of really where the market is and really pricing it right.
Well, listen, it's not just price, it's condition, it's market worthiness, it's attractiveness. Is it currently, is it updated? Is it, you know, what do you see when you look left and right of that house? There's so many hyper local variables to consider. And ultimately, the best positioned and conditioned houses will sell at a premier premium price. And so the other piece of it is, Mika, if you drop 5,000, did you go from 405 to 400? Because now you've bracketed into an entirely different buyer pool. So price bracketing is another conversation to strategically be more attractive and available to more buyers, because supply of buyers is the secret sauce. There you
That's
go.
exactly what happened. I wanted 400 because I know bracketing. He wanted to squeeze as much as possible. And so now it's like getting to the bracket where I told you, but I gave him a little bit of time to say, okay, let's go with my number.
There you go. You're on track as usual.
There you
Good
go.
job,
So
Mika.
in that regard, it may still be a price appreciation price. We just don't know all the data. But here's the bottom line, guys, is we're going to keep our finger on the pulse around prices this year, because we're predicting and factors change all the time. And that's why it's important to tune into this every Monday and make sure you got your ticket to Wednesday's event, because I expect it to be gone today. So there you go. See you guys Wednesday.
Awesome.
Guys.
Later.
Thanks.